Happy Blue Monday. According to experts, today is supposed to be the most depressing of the year. I think it's like a combination of the weather, which in Britain is SHIT, plus like most people are like a bit down on money because like economically we've all been forced to spend loads of money on other people we don't probably like at Christmas and then spend loads of money on ourselves, drinking ourselves into a stupor and pretending it's not actually winter, and like New Year, and then what else? I mean, that's quite enough to be going on with, isn't it? Oh yeah, all of the fun has gone, all of the festivities are over, but we've still got to live through a few more months of absolute darkness. When you put it all like that, it's all a little bit depressing, isn't it? And it can be even harder if you've also had all of these aspirations for 2024 that you've now done your little roundup of and realised I didn't do any of them. And then maybe if you were extra optimistic, on the 1st of January, you were like, let's go, let's make some New Year's resolutions. And now it's the middle of February and you've already fucked it up. Am I sounding familiar? No worries. We are here to chat about it, look back at what went wrong in 2024, probably not your fault, I'm just saying it's probably not your fault, and how to have a better 2025. Who the hell am I to tell you how to live your life and how not to burn out and how to achieve your goals? Well, I'm really no one, but I am also the author of Half-Assed Human, How to Live Better with Burning Out. So I have literally written the book on it. So today we're going to talk about a few of the concepts at the beginning of the book. The whole book isn't like this. The whole book covers lots of different topics. That's another question I had, was people being like, what is actually in this book? So I talk about this ethos, the half-assed manifesto at the beginning, but then we do go through in depth things like half-assed style, half-assing your career, half-assing being vegan and what are the ethics of that and is that okay, half-assing your home life and like how the aesthetics of your home and whether you should even bother with it. Spoiler alert, you probably don't need to bother with it. Half-assing your body care and your admin and your self-esteem. It's also okay to only half-ass love yourself, I discuss in the book, and even half-ass hope. But today we're going to talk about the bare bones because I think that is the most applicable to Blue Monday. Now, I gotta show you a diagram and you have to promise not to laugh. So when I was writing this book, I really wanted it to be illustrated. And the way that I wrote the book meant that I put the illustrations in, but obviously I didn't have an illustrator yet. So I just drew them myself. And I sent them to my editor when I finished the book, and I was like, obviously, we're going to need to get an illustrator in to do these properly, but here's like a rough rendering of like what I'm seeing, these illustrations looking at. And she just replied and was like, Lena, these are kind of perfect. Like, they're so shit. They're kind of great. It almost looks like you've done them in MS Paint or something. And I was like, Kate, I did do them in MS Paint. So here's the first one. This is about this concept of like the shame around half-assing things and what we actually mean when we talk about what a half-asser is. And so perhaps we're afraid of this term half-ass because it implies that we're only like half on our seat throughout life, only ever having one cheek down, ready to run away, never fully committed to the show. When really what we should be is a whole-asser, sitting our whole ass down to watch the show pass and like be present and be fully committed to everything. However, there's also the edge arser who's not on the side of the seat half-assing, ready to run away and not really commit to anything, but is more on the edge of their seat, so immersed in what is happening elsewhere and looking at what else is everybody else is doing and like looking at that show and really like just completely enthralled by it that they forget to be fully present in their own life and their own seat and their own stance and don't whole-ass things either. However, none of these arse positions are as bad as what I call the hovering arse. Diagram 2, please. The hovering arse is the position before the half-arse. Someone whose arse is forever in a liminal space between walking away and hunkering down for the ride. They fear the hypocrisy of the half-arse or the shame of picking the wrong chair. Some people hover for years. I call it the squat of death. If this diagram looks like your mindset right now, I've got something to tell you, and I'm going to hold your hand as I say this. You're an asshole. And I sincerely mean that in an affectionate way. There is a specific kind of emptiness that comes from knowing what needs doing or what you really want and feeling helpless to make it happen. Pile that on top of the guilt you've been stacking against yourself for years. I am too privileged or too lucky, too loved or too spoiled to be feeling this way. And you're probably ready to topple over. The hole in arsehole that I am talking about is the hole where your plan should be. And I have a feeling that it's not your fault. So, before we make a plan for 2025, I'm afraid we must diagnose you. In my book, I have 4 types of arsehole. And before we begin unpacking the half-arse, we have to work out why you have been hovering so much and what has happened to you. There are 4 options. I will lay them out for you now. 1, you've stopped believing you're capable of any arse at all. So the crash diet has a precedent we're all familiar with. You overhaul your eating habits to the extreme, keeping it up for a little bit and then spectacularly quitting, swing over to overeating, feel bad about yourself, and then begin the whole wretched cycle over again. Now, the thing that I think is that crash dieting has an evil cousin, crash self-improvement. You might have mainlined one too many self-help books or podcasts, and because they were too extreme or pushed advice that didn't really fit your reality, you spectacularly failed to obey their tenets. You might have felt like you were the problem, that you are simply out of arse, that you can't do anything right. It's not that you don't care, it's that you're just, so very tired. What little energy you have can't be of any use, can it? Arsehole number 2, you are in a freeze response. You're acutely aware that there is so much to be asked about in the world. There are millions of skills to master, views to ogle at, careers to conquer. And besides that, there's so much to fix. Laws to change, trophies to sieve, ceilings to break. Then there are all the things to perfect. Your beliefs, your butt, your book collection, your stance on beef, your beauty routine, your breakfast bowl. The enormity of it makes your brain fizz and then flatten. You're not numb to the brazen wonder of it all. Your inaction comes from a place of feeling overwhelmed. You're frozen by the idea that you might choose the wrong destination, the wrong person to love, the wrong thing to fix about yourself or the world. Haunted by the fear of missing out, you decide it would only be fair to miss it all. Ugh, that's an awful one. I've been there. Number 3, are you this kind of asshole? You have more ambition than capacity. You get a real rush from a resolution hastily made. You hear what you could have or achieve or be, and you're head first down the lane before anyone can shout, magic beans! Trouble is, you only have 2 legs and 1 space-time continuum. So, as the resolutions stack up, so do the discarded fingernails. It turns out you can't bite your way back to balance. The plates pile, the deadlines fly by, and more often than not, you're left with a few mismatched pieces of puzzles that are less than the sum of their parts. You're a failure, a fallen talent, a privileged piece of mush on the shoe of your generation. Or at least that's what it feels like. Everyone thinks you're smashing it, but secretly, you know you're arsing it up. I've been this arsehole. I think this one is me the most throughout my life. Even when you're spinning plates with a smile, you're always one sneeze away from falling arse over tit. And then finally, if you haven't been any of those arseholes, perhaps you are this 4th one. You are half-arsing all wrong. You're muddling through on autopilot. You feel like you should be making an effort or setting ambitious resolutions, but you're already arsing up the small things you try to change. You spent so much time decoding the food aisle to work out all the ways to shop your way out of being the worst person ever. Palm oil, avocados, is free range that free? You've bought the online course for the thing, that thing that you want to be good at, but you've never actually opened it. You've huffed furniture around your living room in 4 different calibrations, but it still looks more passé than Pinterest. You don't have any more brain real estate to spend on the things you desperately want to improve, so you've started to think it's the end of the road for you and transformation. This is just the way you are. Do any of those resonate? Perhaps more than one of them do. Feel free to mix them together. We can make it a cocktail. Give yourself a name. I'm the breakdown bramble. Now let's talk about what to do about it. Now, I happen to think that half of the problems with not meeting your goals is that the goals are wrong, not you. You can be excellent at living life and trying new things and getting incrementally better at things, but you might be really pants at setting yourself goals. We always think that we're the arsehole for the 364 days we're trying to accomplish a goal or an achievement, but actually we might only be an arsehole on the 1st of January when we're setting out all of those very poorly, badly planned and researched resolutions. Let's think back to the 1st of January 2024. You were a year younger. Perhaps your frontal cortex hadn't finished growing. Perhaps you were much more tired than you are now. Perhaps you were going through something else. Or perhaps you're in a really great place and kind of feeling a little bit arrogant and like too big for your boots about what you could achieve. Perhaps you were having this false sense that just because things were feeling good right now, they'd feel good forever and nothing unexpected would ever happen during your year. Whoever that person was, they were probably the original arsehole, the one that gave you the hole in your meaning in the first place. So let's blame and then forgive them. Look at your resolutions. Were they realistic? Why? Well, like what went wrong? Why aren't they realistic? And what can you do to make better resolutions this year? And indeed, even if you just failed at like the 2025 resolutions that you set like 2 weeks ago, let's also forgive that arsehole too. The first mistake old knobby you might have made is that they had placed too much emphasis on consistency. Never! If your brain works like mine and you identified with any of those other 4 arsehole moments, never set yourself a challenge that you can fail at in a day. If it is literally an incremental challenge where you have a streak and you could break that streak at any moment, that's not fair on you. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen to future us. There are lots of defensible hall passes for things that can happen in life. And setting yourself up for something where you can pour hours, weeks, months of time into achieving something and then like making it possible for you to break it and therefore fail in one day, it's just silly behavior, silly Billy behavior. We don't do that anymore. I have this example in the book where I'm talking about people being vegan. And I have these examples of Bert and Ernie, who are friends. They both watched a documentary about the meat industry together on the sofa on January the 1st, right? And Bert is like, we should totally do veganuary. That would be amazing. And Ernie is like, I've got these other reasons why that might not work and I'm a bit worried about it and I'm not sure. So they basically end up doing jars where they're just like, I am going to fill up my jar and every time I do a vegan day, I'm going to put a marble in the jar. Now, Bert is really annoying and he does the challenge really, really well and like smashes it and like posts about it on social media all the time. And then at the end of the month is like, I've got all of my marbles, I'm amazing. And then like orders a meat feast pizza to celebrate and just goes back to the way his life was before. Ernie has a piss poor amount of marbles in his jar on the last day of January. I'll be honest, Ernie. But the thing is with Ernie is that he keeps going. He's just like, you know, I'm not going to turn down my grand's special steak when she gives it to me. I live in like a much more rural place. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a vegan sandwich whenever I need one. But I'm going to just keep like popping marbles in the jar and see what happens. And then on the 31st of December in this fictional universe in where I've made up this life about Bert and Ernie, this is what their jars look like. When we put consistency over just net positive wins whenever they come, we really do ourselves a disservice, and we also do our impact on whatever we're trying to change a real disservice too. So that's the first thing. If there was a way to adapt your goals from before and make them not consistency streak based, then we might actually get somewhere. Maybe you're doing crafting and you wanted to make one creative thing a month. That's really cool. But maybe in March you couldn't because your nan went into hospital or you got like an awful COVID cough or something like that. That's not your fault. That's the resolution's fault. What I would say instead is like maybe you want to halve that amount, so 12, let's make it 6. And just at some point during the year, you want to make 6 crafty, arty projects. That feels much more doable. It means that you can catch up if something unexpected happens. Maybe we're not jogging 4 times a week. Maybe we're jogging 10 times a month at some point, and an extra long run counts as 2 runs. Let's lower the bar, people. The second thing that you might want to do is instead of making a resolutions list that looks a lot like a to-do list where you just tick them all off, and if you don't tick one off, then that means you've failed at it, instead making a bingo card. Now, I've made bingo cards before for my sewing goals and I love them. And I'm actually running my Year of Make Do challenge at the moment, if you want to join in on it, where we're all sharing our bingo cards of what we want to make or what we want to do and like how we want to rewear our wardrobes in 2025. So if you want to hear about that, I'll leave the links below. But it's made me, since I started using bingo cards as my goals, a really big fan of them, because what is amazing about bingo is that you don't have to check off everything on the list to win. You just need a row. You just need one row. So treating your aspirations as a kind of potluck, like all these different things that you might want to do, and just seeing where the year takes you and knowing in your mind that those things are things that you might want to do if you can, I think is like a real great mix of manifestation, which isn't real, but like is real, but isn't real. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you start thinking about the fact that you want to do something, you're going to be more likely to take steps to do it because you've been thinking about it. Anyway, hopefully it's a good mix of like the ethos of manifesting with a little bit of resolutions mixed in and a lot of fun, like a game. The other thing about bingo and why I think people like it is because it is kind of down to chance. You feel a sense of pride and like excitement when you win at bingo, but you ultimately know that it was kind of chance as well, and recognizing that, you know, things like luck and privilege and things falling into place and good weather and external global, international, political factors not coming into play, all of that affects whether you can achieve your resolutions. So knowing that there is an element of luck and bingo to achieving things, I think is really, really healthy. The third option you have is to copy and paste. If you really look back at those resolutions and go, I don't think I was an idiot on the 1st of January 2024. I think just, you know, I didn't get around to it. Things didn't happen for all of these different reasons that I listed at the beginning of the video. But I don't think there's anything actually wrong with the resolution. Like, I don't really want to change it. Allow yourself to copy your own homework and just do it again. I feel like I partially failed at my Year of Make Do last year, wonderfully publicly, and didn't get everything done that I wanted to as part of that challenge, even though I didn't buy any new clothes. And I just gave myself the grace to be like, that's cool. That was 2024. This is 2025. It's a completely different year. We're just going to do it again. Just literally give myself, like it was last year, just give myself the chance to just try again. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can bring through some of the learnings that we had from last year. I tweaked some of my challenge to do it, but essentially most of it is exactly the same. And I've just gone, no worries. It's just a year of my life. I have quite a lot of weeks of my life left. And I'm glad that I half-assed it last year, because actually it made me learn a little bit more about what I was trying to do. And it made me realise that I genuinely want it, that it wasn't embarrassing to try and do that. And I can just do it again because I feel even more convicted and certain about the fact that I want to complete or do or pour everything into this challenge. So I don't think there's any hypocrisy or idiocy or like any shame or embarrassment in having exactly the same resolutions as you did last year. And maybe you had those resolutions for 5 years running now. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I would call that an amazing feat of consistency, that you've wanted the same thing over and over again means that it might be actually something that really matters to you. And sitting down with yourself and making sure you're letting it matter to you, like giving yourself permission to be like, obviously, whenever I think about what I want to do with a year, I always come back to this one thing. So why don't I let myself do that the rest of the year? Like, what gets in the way of that is a really good little chat to have with yourself. Sit down, get some hot cocoa, maybe a marshmallow, take yourself out for a cream tea. I don't care. Do whatever you would do to persuade a friend or a family member of something. Do that with yourself and have a little chat and be like, what went wrong? Let's just start again. Fresh notebook, fresh slip of paper. I don't think it is hypocritical to fail at something and then try it again. And anybody who makes you feel that way is an arse. There's a true arsehole. Not just an arsehole from the book, but like truly, spiritually, deeply an arsehole. And I don't like those kind of people. We don't take orders or criticism or feedback from those kinds of people. So, how are you feeling? A little bit less blue on Blue Monday? Can we at least get you to a little bit green? A little bit of Oscorp? going on, please. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to hear more about my concepts around half-assing, because boy, I have a lot of thoughts. They're in this book, Half-Assed Human, How to Live Better Without Burning Out, which is also available in audiobook and ebook if you would like it that way. I wanted to find a way with this video to give you an extract from the book, which is something I wanted to do. I wanted to give more away of the book for free for anybody who is interested in it. I wanted to find a way to do that with this video. So kind of reading it out, but also just having a chat with you. And then also I know that I'm doing a few events this month in various parts of the UK, but not everywhere yet. Because again, me trying not to burn out, so trying not to go to too many places all in one month and do too many stopovers. So I wanted to give you a kind of taste of what it might be like to be in one of the half-ass events that I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks. So if you haven't got a ticket for one of those, I know most of them are sold out now. I just wanted to do a little video that kind of felt like the kind of things that I'll be chatting about and talking about in those events. So I hope you enjoyed coming to this virtual event. And if you don't want to physically read the book, I do read the audiobook myself. So if this voice sounds in some way comforting to you or at least a little bit silly, then I will literally, you don't even need to be asked to read the book yourself. I will read it to you in the audiobook. Thank you so much to the Gumption Club who make these videos possible and support me throughout the year, not only financially by tipping me for the videos that I make so I can keep giving them out for free, and I don't feel too bad about giving you parts of the book for free and reading them out as well, because I'm like, these people are supporting me, it's all good. But they also support me in the Discord. We're constantly chatting about the moral dilemmas, the goals that we've got, the things that we're doing all over in my Patreon Discord. So if you want to join a little cozy community of lovely people and you want to get away from Meta and using Facebook and oh god, why is everything crashing, Twitter, I think I might delete my Twitter. It seems like not a good place to be right now. If you want to get away from all of that and learn a new social media platform as well, if you've never used Discord before, we're a very low-key Discord community. I've tried to design it so it's as simple and I'm trying not to overwhelm you with the way we've organised the Discord, and it's very beginner friendly, and I'm always in the Discord and so is Craig, explaining to people how it works. So if you would like to learn Discord and join a lovely community, then you can do that over on the Gumption Club. I think that's all that I have to say to you today, which means my job is over, which means I can go back to bed. Good night. Happy Blue Monday. I won't be self-improving myself today. I'm fine the way I am. And actually the only thing that I would change about myself is that I would like to be unconscious right now. So I'm gonna work on that. Bye. Frog snuggle.